Good afternoon and welcome to the Bend Motorsport Park, this fabulous facility. We're here for round 2 of Lamborghini Super Trofeo Asia. Very happy to have them down under for the very first time. My name is Callum Brannigan, and as you can see behind me, we've got 20 beautiful examples of Lamborghini Super Trofeo Evo 2s ready to get their first 50-minute race underway for this weekend. So without further ado, it's time to introduce our commentators for this afternoon's race. We've got Darren Smith, he's joined alongside by Sean Hensherwood.
You go into the package. We're here at the Bend Motorsport Park, situated just an hour away from the Adelaide CBD, in the beautiful Murray River, Lakes and Coorong region, right here in beautiful South Australia. Surrounding us is the stunning Murray River, and just a short drive away is the Monarto Safari Park and the world-renowned Langhorne Creek wine region. Visit southaustralia.com for more information on how you can make them most of your next trip to the Bend. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the round 2 of the Lamborghini Super Trofeo Asia Series. A fantastic outlook right around this part of the world. South Australia is well worth the visit. And for me, looking down on 20 raging bulls about to unleash on the 4.95 kilometre, 18 turns here at the Bend Motorsport Park is just a menu I cannot wait to bite into. Right beside me, who is travelling with the Lamborghini Super Trofeo Asia Series, is Sean Hensherwood. Sean, welcome to the Bend. Welcome home, I guess, after Sepang round 1.
Thanks, Darren, and welcome to be home after Sepang round 1, where gumboots were the flavour of the day. We certainly had plenty of rain going into that first round, but we're here at the Bend in South Australia, one of the best circuits in this country, and these guys are very much enjoying their experience.
Cars, of course, at Sepang. The first race winner was the Harmony Racing team of Shenghu and Chenghua. Second was Changwu Li and Li Quan, as well as the D1 racing team of Oscar Lee and Dan Wells. As we get to go and have a chat now with the guy that said, I want to have a racetrack at Tailem Bend. Down to you, Callum.
Down here on the grid, the excitement is building towards a 50-minute race starting soon, but I'm joined alongside by Sam Shaheen and David, who's obviously the head honcho. This is his baby here down under for the first time in Australia. So firstly with you, Sam, how good is this to have Lamborghini Super Trofeo Asia down under?
Well, for us, I mean, this is the centre of the universe always, and to have Lamborghini Super Trofeo here is an absolute a dream. And love dealing with professional organisations and professional series, and they come none better than David and his business. So I'm super excited for the teams and the sport, and very excited to have David here for the event.
And over to you, David. Obviously, this was the obvious choice coming down here, this world-class facility. Are you impressed by your first impressions?
Yeah, it's really amazing here. Really, thanks to Sam, to all the teams. They did a great job hosting us, and it's really impressive facility. Thanks a lot.
Gonna hurry up now.
Thanks very much, Callum, and he has
Hi
been
guys,
given the hurry
Dean
up
Canto
here as we go with Dean Canto in the Aces Zagami Huracan Evo 2 for a quick lap of the Bend Motorsport Park. No, we don't. We have a good look at the grid. There it is, Dean Canto.
Back down to second gear, tight turn 1, accelerate out hard, into turn 2, third gear, accelerate hard again to turn 3. Hard on the brakes, get the car in nice and tight back to second. Keep it tight on the exit, little bit of wheel spin on the exit here. Now we come up to the very gutsy corner, turn 5. Fifth gear, almost full throttle. Careful on the exit, and then we come down to the very, very challenging off camber, turn 6 hairpin, back to second gear. Manage the car on the way in. Use all the road on the exit, accelerating hard. All the way out to the outside here into the fast triple right section. Lovely bit of circuit here. Just the world's longest corner. That left front tyre copping all the load. And then coming out, get the car back over for turn 11. Nice fast corner, flat back on the brakes, one gear into turn 12. Use all the road on the exit and then some. Shifting our way up to fifth gear, coming up to turn 13. Nice cambered in uphill corner. Get the car in low and tight again. Use that camber for the banking. Blind exit, accelerating up to fourth. Hard braking for turn 14. Tricky corner this one. Back to third. Accelerating out, and again another tricky corner into 15. You got to be careful on the exit here. Over the crest, the blind exit again. Shifting our way up to 5th gear. Second last corner, over 90 degrees. Very, very late apex here. Back to 2nd gear, slow corner. Accelerating out, using all the road. Coming up to the last corner, very open corner, fast corner. 3rd gear, got a bit of extension in the concrete here, using all of that. And relax back on the main straight.
And the close of qualifying this morning, 2 15-minute sessions, 10-minute break in between. Very, very spirited at the front of the field. And as you can see, the Venezuelan Jonathan Chicotto took pole position for both race 1 and race 2. He's very, very impressive. Jackson Walls likewise taking position number 2. Marco Giltrap driving, of course, with reigning Pro Series champion Chris Vanderdrift will start from position 3. Then Oscar Lee alongside Dan Wells. They shared a victory at Malaysia for the opening round. Back on row 3, Dean Canto, we just rode on board with him, will start this race. In fact, I think Sam Brabham's starting this race, but we'll get onto that one, Daz. Alongside Andy Watt in the number 19, Absolute Racing entry. Shengweiju, in the number 16 entry, will start from position number 7. Wei Liang Ni alongside Miko Nassi will jump in a little later. Smart C alongside David Lau in the number 28 entry will start from position 9. Bobby Buncheron in position 10, the Thai driver who did so well during the opening round. Changru Lee will start the number 11 entry. Henry Kay alongside his brother Eric will start the number 12 entry. We go a little bit further back down the order. Adrian Dietz, the Australian driver with a lot of GT experience with Lamborghini, will start from position number 13. Jilong Kang will be in position number 14. And Johnson Huang will start from 15 from the number 71 entry. And that, of course, is Super Chai, who did such a great job last time round. Mark Darwin, the experienced driver from Malaysia, will start from position 17, a lot further back than I would have expected him to be. And Harry O, driving with his brother Haziq, will start from position 18. We go back to the final round of final grid position. We have car number 83, and that, of course, is Dr. Ma alongside Kumar, who's actually come back from running in the European Championship just a couple of weeks ago at Paul Ricard. So he's got a little bit of experience under his belt racing for the Iron Lynx operation. Behind the pace car, ready for a start. Right of screen is the young Australian Jackson Walls, driving, of course, with his father, Tony. Very experienced campaigner, but keep an eye on a very impressive yellow, red and black entry from Jonathan Chicotto. He is very, very impressive and very, very fast. And he's got a great jump coming across the line to start this race. 50-minute duration, compulsory pit stop between minute 25 and minute 35. And look at how racy Giltrap is a little bit further back. And that is Oscar Lee, I think, has started the number 21 entry. He's just been taken for position, and those two cars were battling at the front of the field during the opening round in Malaysia. And Darren, really good start, nice and clean, just the way we like to see it.
Oscar Lee jumped that beautifully, got a good run there, then was just overtaken into turn 1, read the play nicely, but it was the New Zealand car of Marco Giltrap that got through. Not surprisingly, the driver of number 84 is doing a fair bit of one-make GT type sports car racing around the moment, doing a lot here domestically, here in Australia and in New Zealand. So he's read the play, knows the landscape here too at the Bend Motorsport Park. There's about 80% of this field that haven't even visited the facility before, let alone done laps here. So there is a distinct advantage. Jackson Walls, I would say, with Adrian Dietz. Dean Canto, of course, is head and shoulders above everyone. He probably has 100% of the laps here. He just about lives here doing driver training and improving and performance things here as well. So we look for great things from him out in this race as well. As we have a look back down through the field now, this is Anwar Lomabantai as well, and they're mixing it up. This is just outside the top 5. Sam Brabham is just up the road from them. He is in position at number 5. I was led to believe that it was Dean Canto. The timers have told me it was Dean Canto, but the timing now says it is Sam Brabham. So interestingly enough, Sean touched on Jonathan Chicotto as well. What a stamp of authority on the run up to turn 1 who gave the start of this race.
We're going to look at these young professional race drivers, as he is, of course, the young son of dual motorcycle world champion Johnny Chicotto. He's got some good experience. Of course, Chicotto had experience at Bathurst. We saw him in BMWs for many years back in the 80s.
I reckon I cheered him on.
You probably did cheer him on. You go back that far. But interestingly, he's been very, very impressive from the get-go. And I asked him, how did you manage to put it together? He said, well, it's something new. I wanted to enjoy it. He said, one of the great things about enjoying a circuit is you tend to be fast. And he said, I've just been able to nail it. And he was quick basically straight out the gate. Dan Wells also very quick. And interestingly, we expected to see the reigning champion. He's on screen in the car in front for Lamborghini Auckland and the Giltrap Group. Of course, that is Chris Vanderdrift. Very, very experienced campaigner in GT cars and certainly in one make competition. But he is the reigning pro champion for Lamborghini Super Trofeo Asia, and he's done very well. So great to see him behind the wheel, and it looks like he is the one that has started the number 84 entry, so we'll keep a close eye on that. But up front, already Chicotto's out by on 9/10 of a second, but Jackson Walls was telling me just prior to the start of the race that he thought he had him in qualifying during that first session. Got a little bit balked on one of his laps, which got looked at by the stewards. I don't think any action was taken on that, but he said the second lap was actually quicker. He said, I messed up. He said, I would have had pole position. So keep a close eye on Jackson Walls. He's not allowing Chicotto to get too far away.
The number 91, Henry Kay and Eric Kay there. That was the car that didn't make it out of qualifying at round 1 at Sepang. It was, they used the banker car to run in that race. And interestingly enough, Sean, the pressure on these race teams, that wrecked bits is sitting out of the back of the garages here at Tailem Bend at the moment because the car had to be shoveled into a container. Bought here, the repairs done trackside here by Kevin and the guys down there, and it's now on track. So they were lucky, they got to race the 2 races at Sepang, but now they're back in their own car and the banker car is back in the container, ready for the next person that may need it.
Keeping a close eye on Sam Brabham, he's done a very, very good job. He's done a few miles around here too now in GT3 competition, but this is really his first experience in a Super Trofeo car, and he said, man, they are such a great car to drive. And at one stage, he was more than matching Dean Canto's pace, which made Rod Wilson, who is the team boss of that Zagami back team this weekend, very, very happy. In fact, Rod at one stage was potentially slated to be behind the wheel, but he said, look, my days of being a hero in a race car are long since over. I want to build this. And the interesting thing about Zagami, who of course are the Lamborghini importer for both South Australia and Victoria, is this is paving the foundations for potentially running a Zagami team and Zagami drivers in Super Trofeo Asia throughout season 2024 and 25.
Super, that's a real hand-in-glove relationship there. Zagamis really do get involved with motorsport. Sam Brabham has done some racing in Europe, so if you're watching on over there, he did some one-make GT-type racing in Europe. Came home, which is, whether it be the UK or whether it be Australia, for the Brabhams, we like to still think that all the Brabhams are Aussies, and of course the lineage goes back to multiple world champion Jack Brabham. His cousin Matthew also has had Indy 500 starts in recent years as well, so certainly that Brabham name is synonymous with motorsport, and we love to watch the generations of that family come through and keep the lineage alive as far as that's concerned. This is a fantastic battle between the 84 and the 21, Chris Vanderdrift and Dan Wells.
Well, that's the other interesting point I was going to make out in some of these nominations. We've actually missed some of this stuff, so the information you got was a little bit contradictory to mine, but it is in fact Dan Wells and Chris Vanderdrift. They are basically the standout performers in this championship. The guys in front of them are 2 young guys. Jackson Walls finding his feet. He's done a little bit of open wheel competition, admitted to me this morning that he's basically passed up on that aspiration, and he's more focused on GT competition. And I said to him, you've been very good in this car. And he said, I just feel comfortable in it. It's been really good. But the other motivation that is good, and he said to me yesterday that his father, Tony Walls, up until Malaysia, hadn't been in a car for a couple of years. So this is a real father and son exercise, but it's great that Tony has that chance in that objective car that's holding down position 2 at the moment, just slightly in front of this battle pack between Vanderdrift and Wells, a chance to just be a father and son team and enjoy the racing. But Jackson really has a good potential long term, as we've seen the fastest first sector just punched out by Chicotto. So he said to me beforehand, before this race started, there's a compulsory pit stop in the middle. If you're a single driver entry, you have to stop for a minimum time of 83 seconds. If you're a double driver entry, you have to stop for a minimum 80 seconds. So there's a 3-second back up there. Now, it's because you're the hot driver coming into the pit stop. You leave and you know the track conditions. You're going to make up an advantage. So they've worked out a nominal 3 seconds. So I said, how are you going to deal with that? He said, that's easy. I'm just going to drive away from the field at the start of the race and it won't be a problem. I'll come out leading the way I went in. I thought that's a fair theory. So good on him. Jonathan Cicotto's been very impressive this weekend and a hell of a nice guy too. So he's doing what he needs to at the front of the field, currently up by 1.2 seconds on Jackson Walls.
I tell you what, by design or by default, the idea of going father-son racing in a Huracan Evo 2 for the Lamborghini Super Trofeo Asia series sounds great to me. I don't have a son, but I'd love to do it with my daughter. It would be certainly a way to go, and I think Tony and Jackson are having a great time doing it. I saw Tony earlier this morning, who we're very well known in the Australian GT ranks, smiling from ear to ear. So that's what it's all about for that team. Out in front at the moment, though, Johnny Cicotto hasn't exactly run away and hidden from Jackson Walls, but Jackson Walls has got nearly 4 seconds over the next lot. So that plan he detailed to you, Sean, is starting to fall into place.
Now on screen we're looking at a great battle a little bit further back. That's Adrian Dietz in the number 93 entry. He's back in position number 13, just ahead of Johnson Wang, who's a fairly accomplished one-make driver in Asia. He's done a bunch of different racing, so that's interesting as he dives down the inside. We just missed that opportunity to see whether or not Johnson Wang got that position on Adrian Dietz, but fair call too. We're looking at this great battle between two of the best GT drivers, I would say, in Asia. Of course, Chris Vanderdrift, the second of those cars in the Lamborghini Auckland entry, and the number 21 entry, of course, of Dan Wells, now Hong Kong-based D1 racing team. Now, the deal he put together for that car came together in the last week before the first round at Sepang. He was without a drive with Oscar Lee heading into the first round of this season. They put that deal together, and of course, between car 21 and of course the Vanderdrift car immediately behind him, the 84 entry, they were 1-2 at both races. They shared a win apiece, so they are leading this championship at the outright end. But of course, there's various categories. We'll get into that shortly. There's the Pro category, Pro-Am, and the Lamborghini Cup. I'll explain the differences shortly.
Current spec Lamborghini Huracan Evo 2s, and they have done a massive advantage. Look at this. There it is. The 21 looks to the inside. The 84 stays with it. Chris Vanderdrift does very, very well and hangs on. Dan Wells gets it done there as well. There is now our race leader, the very brightly coloured Jonathan Cicotto entry.
And Dan Wells is actually pulling away from Chris Vanderdrift, which I'm a little bit surprised by. How's Sam Brabham's form, though? I mean, the two guys in front of him are experts at this. They've run at the front of this field for quite some time. In fact, Oscar Lee and Dan Wells ran in Europe last season and were right towards the front. In fact, they ran at the World Series and were not far off the podium. In fact, I think they got very close to the podium in the World Final. So they're a very talented team. And Dan Wells, there's no questioning just how good he is behind the wheel. Now, that's the number 63 entry. Let's check who started that one. Make sure that my documents are right. It's John Kwon, the US-based Korean driver. And they were very impressive during the opening round in damp conditions. And I have to say, one who was very impressive in the opening round, we had torrential tropical rain right as we're set on the grid for the start of the first race. 45 minutes it fell, non-stop. It was absolutely incredible. You've never seen so much water. But the start of the race, after the safety car had gone out and done 2 siding laps, and they said, all right, we're going to start in 10 minutes, Chris Vanderdrift went straight to slicks. And the rain was still settling. I said, what was the idea about that? He said, it's probably one of the only circuits in the world that effectively, as soon as the rain stops, with the ambient temperature and the track temperature, you can go out and skate around for 3 laps, and then you're good to go. So
It's really dried up quick, didn't it?
he read that perfectly. And the other problem, of course, is if you have to make a stop for a tyre change during the race, it's a minimum 50-second stop. So you really had to weigh up whether or not you were comfortable as an amateur driver in the wet on slick tyres, or whether you wanted to stay with that comfort barrier and go out on wets.
Getting a good look at car number 6 now. This is Sam Brabham, and he is currently sitting in position number 5. He's some 9 seconds off the lead of this race, so got some work to do there. Running with Dean Canto, who is widely recognised domestically in Australia as the professor of the Bend. He does a lot of work here, week in, week out, plugs himself in magnificently, and it's not his first rodeo as well in a Lamborghini. He has been around, has got an illustrious career starting in GTP type competition, so production car type racing, moved to a strong career in the Australian Supercars Championship over many years, driving for factory teams there as well. And now Dean fantastic to have him behind the wheel with another famous name in Australian motorsport. That's the Brabhams. Let's have a look at these two currently on screen now. This is the 71 in the mix there as well, and this is a very long surname. We Rabor Warompong. I hope I've got that right. Super Chai.
Super Chai, yeah.
We'll run with Super Chai, but he's just been given a very swift move by there as well. So that's the 18 coming on through here of Kang and Dano Deal. There is Dean Canto, just talking about Dino there as well, looking resplendent in his Super Trofeo Lamborghini overalls, ready to go. In fact, not ready to go, didn't even have the helmet or balaclava on.
Well, that's part of the strategy. 50-minute races are part of the championship. There's 6 rounds. Each round has 2 races, so there's 12 races constitute the full season. Every race is 50 minutes. There's a compulsory pit stop for every team, whether you're a single driver or a 2-driver entry, between the 25 and 35-minute mark. As we just touched on, single driver entry needs to stop for 83 seconds. 2-driver entry needs to stop for 80 seconds. It's to give the teams enough time to actually strap the drivers in and get everything right without rushing, making any mistakes and creating a bit of a safety issue. Now we're just looking at Jackson Walls being hauled in hand over fist by Dan Wells. Dan Wells will hand over to Oscar Lee. Now, Chris Vanderdrift perhaps isn't quite so worried about the fact that there is a bit of a lapse there. He's just dropped off the pace of Dan Wells in front of him. I say that and he's just punched out his fastest first sector of the race because he knows that he's got Marco Giltrap, who you've seen a little bit of. He's done a lot of one-mate competition in New Zealand and Australia and been very, very impressive. And he was very impressive in very changeable conditions in Malaysia during the opening round. So the young Kiwi has been a very good addition to that team, and I think Vanderdrift's just thinking, we've pretty much got this, because as a 2-driver combination, we're probably a little bit faster lap on lap to the Wells and Oscar Lee combination. So the one they're all going to worry about is Chicotto, but I think you could almost say he's got this one in the bag. Now that's... I wasn't going to talk about commentator's curse, but hey, I brought the rain down on us at the first round, so I'm just going to touch some wood if I can find some.
Here's the guys that have been working very hard, Sean, to get the crash car from Sepang repaired after the qualifying accident there. The guys on screen there, they look like they've been burning the midnight oil, and they have been. They've been piecing that car back together so it could get out on track there. There's the Garfield car number 33, Jason Lowe. And I like that car. I was wandering past it today and I thought that looks a little bit like me, that character on the side of that car. Relaxed at the car races and having a good old time of it. Currently sitting in position number 17. It's an AM entry and not mucking about either. In fact, did a really good job in qualifying. Qualified 17th and a 156.34, and all of the cars around him sort of 56s and 57s obviously, but really, really good. Never seen the place before yesterday when he arrived for practice, and doing a tremendous job. Can't miss the car in front. That is the brightest livery you've ever seen, and car number 71 there, Super Chai, has just lost a couple of spots in the last lap and a half. So there's a spinner off into the grass. I think that was the number 18, Kang. Zilong Kang, and this is a troublesome spot there because it has been quite damp in the days leading up to here. In fact, yesterday there was some wet conditions, even this morning was some damp conditions for some of the local domestic categories to run on here, and keeps it going, a little bit of rallycross style, and bounces it back onto the track. Thank you very much. I will get back underway in my Huracan Evo 2 here at the Bend.
It was interesting to come to the Bend, and a number of these drivers had obviously done simulator laps just to prepare themselves for the way the circuit ran. But as Ray Liu said to me just earlier, you can't work on elevation. It can't give you that sensation so much. So he said it was really very different, but they're all loving it. The one thing they have done though is a couple of the drivers said, look, by the end of qualifying we've done 9 laps. That was a 2-driver entry. That's basically all we've got in the books. So they're being very cautious. They look like another car stopped there again too. I wonder whether it was the 18 still struggling. It is. In fact, they haven't managed to get themselves sorted.
Well, that's another off. That's another standalone spin there. So
you can see the telltale tyre marks as he's come into that position, turning himself around the right way. But they've been very cautious in taking the right approach and not being too over-generous to actually come in here and drive too hard, because this is a very new experience for many of them. Of course, we're used to circuits like Shanghai and Sepang and Suzuka and Fuji and all those big well-known Formula One circuits, and a lot of these guys have done a lot of miles around there, but as you pointed out earlier in the program, 70 or 80% of this field have never seen the circuit before, so this has been very good so far to only have a couple of minor offs during the course of the weekend so far.
Not only in season 2023 have we got the new Huracan Evo 2, we're back after 3 years of not racing. The other thing that has been very, very interesting is we're here at a new track. And the Hankook tyre, here it is. There's a big run into it as well. Jackson Walls is not surrendering. The 22 goes out in the grass to defend this to the 21. Dan Wells momentarily pushed into the second place, has dropped back in behind. But Jackson Walls knows the layout here very well. Dan Walls has been at this game for a very long time, and his experience said, just ease out of this, Dan. You'll have another chance at the 21 at some point in this race, as we see the 33, the Garfield liveried car, off on the driver's left there as well. This battle rages, Sean, and my point was we're at a track we haven't been to before on the Hankook tyre, which is brand new this year, and the brand new car. So there's a lot of variables for all of these competitors to wrap their head around. And for mine, that all-important marriage between racetrack and race car, the Hankook tyre, is what you've really got to get your head around. That has been, seems to have been seamless, really, but I dare say there's some engineering druids, some tyre technicians in the background working feverishly to make it look like this is all going exactly to plan.
100%. That Control Hankook C54 compound slick is probably medium compound, but compared to what they'd used in the past, it was relatively similar. Obviously, there's a setup change, but the other thing you got to remember too is this is the Evo 2. This isn't the Evo, the second generation rather. This is the third generation of the Huracan Super Trofeo. And whilst mechanically it is pretty much the same, there is a huge difference between this car and the Huracan GT3, as Rod Wilson was pointing out to me this morning, as this battle continues to wage between Jackson Walls and the fast, hard-charging British-based Hong Kong driver, or Hong Kong-based British driver, Dan Wells. So he's still keen to get forward, but he's also understanding that it's a championship. And if they want to be in a championship and you want to win championships, you have to finish races, and this is important. So you saw how Dan Wells really pushed it as much as he could, but it was pretty clear that Jackson Walls wasn't going to give that one up too easily. So Wells has just backed out of it. He knows the pit stop window is going to open before too much longer, and there's an opportunity for something to potentially change. But the good thing about the pit stop window is this is where strategy comes into play. We've seen it before in GT3 racing over many, many years. The pro drivers will go as long in the car as they can before that window finally closes, to have less time for the lesser experienced driver to be behind the wheel. So that's all part of that strategy. But when you're caught up in a situation like that, the other thing you've got to play out is, well, really, is Oscar Lee going to be racing Tony Walls? Probably not. He's going to be much quicker lap by lap than Tony Walls. So do they get out of it early and just allow there to be a change and for Oscar Lee to actually start moving things further forward? So that is the Iron Lynx team. Marquino down there with his boys. He's just come back from Europe, where they had a very strong run in the Lamborghini Cup Championship at Paul Ricard. Had a couple of wins there. I think he told me they had 8 or 9 cars between Lamborghini Super Trofeo Europe and GT3 over there a couple of weeks ago. So they're keen to impress upon the Asian region just what they can do with Iron Lynx, but that is part of the former Keith Wong. There's a driver we know only too well in this part of the world.
Oh, very fond memories of him doing great laps and at Malala during the Shannon's Nationals all those years ago in one-make GT type racing. Great race driver. Good to see him back here in South Australia doing some racing. Also, Sean, the Iron Lynx team have an entry in Le Mans this weekend as well. So they'd be stretching themselves all over the world, not only north and south of the equator, east and west of the globe as well. So doing a terrific job. Here we have the 33 in now, Jason Lowe. And there he is, the Iron Lynx outfit, a little look inside the cabin of that car. Lots of things going on, very deliberate actions. We see this in driver changes now, don't we? The actions, the rushing and the scurrying of old is gone now, isn't it? It's very deliberate. Right hand goes here, left hand goes there. Belt in, belt in. Very, very well rehearsed and practiced in these driver changes. This continues, this battle, and it's absolutely enthralling. Jackson Walls, and I guess, Sean, this is now, when does the first one blink? You just detailed that the drivers that will be finishing the race race. These two cars will be a little bit different in outlook and how they're going to approach it. But I guess once one of them blinks, normally the one in front, the one behind follows, don't they?
I don't think Jackson Walls has got anything to lose. He's certainly building a career, as his father Tony. He's an accomplished GT racer in his own right. He's towards the shady end of his career in motorsport, I guess you'd put. Jackson's got a lot to prove by staying in front of a driver the calibre of Dan Wells, so he's not losing anything here. Dan Wells is thinking very much about championship. Ideally, the Walls team would like to be in that championship hunt, but they're not likely to be. The 33 is the first one to have blinked and come in for their compulsory stop, but things will definitely start to change in the layout of this race as we get through the compulsory stops now the other side. Now, I said the compulsory pit stop window is between 25 and 35. Pretty sure that's how it was when we were in Malaysia, but all very wide on the edge of the 18 again. We've already seen a couple of spins. You don't want to put too many wheels out on the grass, especially as you're loading up the car onto that side to turn in. He was well offline. In front of him, this race continues on.
The 17 of Mikko Nassi now. We're looking at just inside the top 10 in this race now. And Mikko Nassi, the Singaporean-based race driver. And under brakes, gee, these Huracan Evo 2 Super Trofeos are amazing under brakes. I think they actually take it up to the world of GT racing now, under brakes. And it's interesting when you talk to the drivers and the difference between the generation. That's the one that springs to front of mind for all of them, is that you stomp on that middle pedal and you absolutely know your eyeballs just about go through the lens in your helmet.
Joined Andre Couto, who's the driver coach, very accomplished driver, former winner of the Macau Grand Prix in F3. He's doing a lot of work with Lamborghini Squadra Corsa in Asia this year just to get these drivers happy and organised. Of course, having driver trainers is a big part of one-make competition. He's driven these cars a couple of times and he said, Sean, there's no way you can lock a wheel on these things. He said these drivers, even the pros, will have a lot of trouble even finding the maximum braking performance in the car. He said they're so good. He's driven a lot of one-make competition around the Asian region, certainly. He's done a lot of GT competition in Japan and around the world. He said these cars are every bit as good as a modern GT3 car. Very different. The platform's very different. Rod Wilson, again, from Zagami, is explaining to me that this car is a completely different platform to the GT3 car. There's very few parts that are crossover. There's a bit of difference in ride height. That just changes the performance of the car, obviously, with the centre of gravity. The tyres are different diameter. It's not as wide, it's not as high as the GT3 tyre, and the aero, obviously, isn't as good. But on lap-by-lap performance, I mean, Craig Lowndes' lap record around here in a GT3 car is a 1:45.6. Dean Canto's put a Super Trofeo Evo around here in a 1:47.2, I think it was. So very, very closely matched in performance. Where they gain is in a straight line. Where they lose is in the high-speed corners. As you see more action a little bit further back as Dan Wells has another look at Jackson Walls. He had a little bit of a breather, thought, oh, I'll just give him a little bit of space and see if I can't creep up on him again. But we've still got a little bit of time before that pit window closes. And that's when Jackson Walls, I'm sure, will be in to hand over to Father Tony. Let's just see whether or not Dan Wells just gets fed up with this a little bit and decides to pit a little bit earlier to hand over to Oscar Lee. Fastest man on track is Dan Wells. Sorry, Daz, was just going to point out a 1:48.5.
We're just hearing reports in around from trackside officials that we've got some light drizzle starting to appear. Light drizzle is really just gossip, isn't it? It's super subjective as to what it is. It's when the track surface starts to get shiny that we start to really worry about it, or when the drivers go for the wiper switch. But at the moment, light drizzle won't affect the racing rubber. It will be at full temp, and we start to get a bit of traffic. There's the 16 off the track at the moment. That is Liang, Jitang Liang in number 16, a pro entry, was in position 7 on the road. And as we've seen, 2 cars just go past, so back to at least 9th. There's Jonathan Chicotto weighing in on it. He has just eased his gap out to 4.74 seconds. He's gained another 1/10 of a second on that lap. Sean, it feels as though in the early laps, 5 and 6, up to about 5 and 6, he was getting about half a second a lap. Over the last 10 laps or so, about the last 8 laps or so, he's been just easing out a 10th here and a 10th there. Here is Brabham in.
Hands over to Dean Canto.
Nick Pole emblazoned on the side there, an Australian manufacturer. And Zagami Autosport, as Sean mentioned before, the Lamborghini distributor in this part of the world, also in Victoria. run a really slick business down there for all of their road car customers, and certainly the Autosport branch, which Rod Wilson heads up. Very, very experienced super speedway racer, experienced open wheeler racer, GT racer, heading that up. So a better guy I couldn't think of to head up your motorsport program, and does it very, very well. In fact, he was that on it this morning. He was putting flags up, relaxing, putting flags up. So big shout out to Rob. Many, many years at the top end of Australian motorsport.
All the time this battle goes on between Jackson Walls and Dan Wells. They're allowing Chicotto to get away. 4.3 seconds up now. I think they focused a little bit on just getting line and length the last couple of laps, because I think that gap got out to about 4.7 seconds and they've dropped it down to 4.2. It's just stretched out again as Chris Vanderdrift continues to follow around in position number 4. But 4.3 seconds the lead. That is all Chicotto needs. Now, he can pit whenever it suits him. So he'll be waiting, I guess, for a pit lane that isn't full of cars. But at the moment, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now, it says that Jackson Walls is coming into pit lane. Let's see if we see him in the background there. But certainly the timing monitor, that should be the Walls objective car. It should pull in there somewhere. No, that looks like it's the 93 entry.
Yeah. That's Adrian Dietz, the other Australian who is just coming in to do his pit stop. Adrian, a very experienced Lamborghini racer. Indeed, sometimes Adrian is the only Lamborghini out there in Australia and domestically, but great to see him competing in this series this weekend, Sean.
Sorry, Daz, that is Dan Wells, new race leader, because it's telling us that Chicotto is in pit lane. I didn't see that yellow, red and black entry come down pit lane, but there certainly is Jackson Walls. Hands over to his father, Tony, and we're 21 minutes left in this race, 28 minutes down, or 29 minutes down. Chicotto's in pit lane. Walls is in pit lane. From Sombat is in pit lane. Jiatong Liang in the Harmony Racing entry, just saw it shoot past there. They had pole position for race 2 at the hands of David Shen, who was due to be driving this weekend, but he had to pull out due to business commitments. I just spoke to him downstairs. He turned up to watch his team, the Harmony Racing team, compete, but he is not behind the wheel this weekend. Very accomplished Chinese one-make driver, an AM driver, came into this very late in life compared to a lot of the younger drivers who started in go-karts and open wheelers. He certainly set pole position for race 2 in Malaysia. So they're in pit lane, and as Darren was just pointing out, Adrian Dietz also in pit lane, likely to be on his out lap anytime. There he is in the background, but Tony Walls has come out of pit lane. And once we shuffle the order and Dan Wells and Chris Vanderdrift hit pit lane, we'll see what we're up to. There was the early race leader. That is the number 10 entry of Jonathan Chicotto, and he's already on fire. You can see what they say about having the single driver entries facing a longer time penalty, because they come out of pit lane already hot and ready to go. So an impressive run for him. Keep an eye on the number 10. Sorry, Daz, you were just pointing.
Looking at the CPS, the pit window open at the moment. Time remaining in this race is 20 minutes and 11 seconds. If I read the regulations correctly, we've got 8 seconds now to get everyone in. And looking at the timing screen, we've got it with only 7 seconds left to go. So everyone has pitted and done the job. So some of those masters of strategy have waved their magic wand there, as we get a good look at this number 10, and I would suggest once the rinse cycle is over, we'll bob up in the lead of this race. Magnificent shots into the back of these cars, and albeit the aero isn't as much as in wing surface, it is certainly a complex package on these cars. Here we go. Refired.
Oscar Lee behind the wheel, taking over from Dan Wells. That was the race leader. Now, they had a good advantage. They should come out still in the lead of this race, but Chicotto's charging. There's no counting for just how much time pit entry to pit out after you've done your 80 seconds for time into time out, that transiting the exit of pit lane and entry to pit lane and how much you're actually going to lose. So here we are on track. Let's keep a close eye. That is the Vanderdrift entry, which has pitted, of course. And Marco Giltrap is behind the wheel. Now let's see. There is Tony Walls. As the 18 comes off again. That's not the first time, nor the second, I don't think, in this race.
Now, Ray Lou parked it up there. Now, that one is not going anywhere. This, I would suggest, is going to bring out that magnificent Urus safety car. Not that we wanted to see it, but if you're going to have a safety car, have a Lamborghini safety car, that is for sure. And he's not even attempting to drive out of there. That is straight on at the run down from turn 7, I would suggest, to turn 8. Big runoff area there, and then hit that magnificently groomed trap. And just confirmation from race control that the compulsory pit stop window is now open, and the 18 is absolutely going nowhere. No point even to try any further. It's just making it harder for the recovery team to drag you out.
Race leader's just gone through, and Marco Giltrap there is Jonathan Chicotto. He is leading this race. So 5.7 seconds. I expect to see the safety car boards. There they are in the background. Yellow flag still, but we're hearing safety car will be out shortly. Now yellow flag too. Chicotto needs to be very careful. He just made a passing move, and we were watching a yellow flag in the background.
We were watching a yellow flag in the background.
No, I think he's just allowing him back through. So he's obviously seen what's going on. He's had word from pit lane that safety car is due, and he was eyes on. He was absolutely charging up to 5.7 seconds clear rather of Marco Giltrap after that stop. And I think for Ray Wu, unfortunately, who qualified position number 6 as an AM driver in his second qualifying session. Very, very impressive. In fact, AM drivers were 4, 5 and 6. So he'll be really dirty on himself. I reckon that is cold driver. He's just gone in there too hot. Conditions weren't quite right. Tyres, well, certainly they're up to temperature, because you don't make a compulsory stop and change tyres. You don't need to. If you do need to, it's an additional 50-second penalty, so you don't want to be changing tyres. But certainly these control handcooks do the job. You don't need to be worrying about tyre wear or drop-off, which we often talk about between a new tyre and a used tyre, as there is your 1-2 behind the safety car. And what will Chicotto be able to do? So far he's been pretty flawless. In fact, during practice, he was quickest in the opening practice session. Dan Wells went quickest in session 2. In fact, Wells got down to a 47.9. The first session was a 49.3 from Chicotto, and then Chicotto went out and blitzed qualifying both sessions. We had a red flag during the second qualifying session, I'm pretty sure. Yes, it was, because Dean Canto was behind the wheel. Canto had set the pace. There was a red flag incident for a driver off at turn 10, I think it was. Turn 16 during the qualifying session. Brought all the cars back into pit lane, and Canto didn't go back out again, but he had a 3/10 advantage at that point. Rod Wilson was saying to me that Canto said, I just got nothing left. If he goes faster, I can't do anything about it. He's just too quick. Rod Wilson was explaining that what was interesting was that Chicotto was 4/10 faster than Canto across the first sector, which they were all surprised about. They got no idea how he managed to pull it off, because Canto said, I'm hanging her out there. That's as quick as I'm going to make it, and I just can't catch him. So looks like we've got a little bit of information down in pit lane. It sounds like Sam Brabham down there with Colin.
It was so good. I had so much fun out there. Like, first start in one of these cars was different to what I'm used to a little bit. You know, the GT race of the rolling starts, it was such good fun, and trying to keep up with the faster guys in front was a good experience. And I've handed over to Dean now, and hopefully with the safety car we can catch up a little bit and have a good chance at a podium.
So the looming conditions, there's a bit of inclement weather coming over the top. Was that looming in the back of your mind?
Not really. I like to call it dry rain, where it doesn't really make the ground wet. It's one of those things where you've got to just push through it, and until you start to feel something underneath you, it's very easy to see something on the windscreen and think, oh, I'm going to slow down. But actually, you've got tyre temp, you can actually have grip, so it's actually not so bad.
Perfect. Thank you, Sam Brabham.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Commentator's vernacular, and that is dry rain. I like that. That's exactly what I was trying to say when I was saying it's not wet till the track is shiny, but certainly trust to Brabham to have a more technical term to run that out with. Something interesting, Sean, I'm just interrogating the results from race 1 at Sepang, which was obviously delayed with rain, and that the SQDA Grit Motorsport team of Changwoo Lee and John Kwong in the number 63 got home in second place. They're currently down in 6th place. Now, it's changed in complex a little bit now that we've got the safety car out and they're bunched back up. But those guys have only just started to come into a decent lap time. So they've, we're talking about those maybe 9 laps in practice, and they've just started to get their learning process on. They've just jumped into this second part of this race, and Changwoo Lee has, I think, plugged in faster and starting to come through. So I'm watching for that car that came second in the first race of the championship, currently running 7th on the road, to push on through. Obviously Sam Brabham is watching Dean Canto to see how he can push through there as well. But certainly in spectacular fashion, Jonathan Cicotto has done a brilliant job so far this weekend. Let's have a look whilst we're got the race nullified a little bit at the moment. Jonathan Cicotto leads the way with 18 laps under the belt and fastest lap in the race at a 1:48.56. His fastest, not the fastest in the race. That's Dan Wells at a 1:48.54. 2 100ths of a second faster. Marco Giltrap, a pro entry in car number 84, fastest lap, a 1:49.20. Interestingly, not a 1:48. So the car behind and the car in front has done 1:48s. But Marco Giltrap, the number 84 entry, hasn't managed to get into the 48s. Tony Walls is next in line into the 48s, a 1:48.85 in a Pro-Am entry in car number 11. Then we go to Dean Canto, a pro entry, being with Dean Canto and Sam Brabham, 1:49.75. So this is where the lap time started to just ease off. Dan Wells, fastest car on track, in position number 5. Then we have Anwat in the AM entry number 19, at 1:50.99. Changwoo Lee that car's just landed inside the 150s on lap number 15. So they're really starting to push well, and I'm looking for a late race charge. I'm going to suggest maybe 10 minutes will be left on the clock to do it. We go to the 17 now, in position 8, a wheeling knee. Xinghu Zhu in the number 16 in 9th, Eric Kay in 10th, then Sudaluk in the number 78 in 11th, David Lau in 12th, Vincent Tai in 13, Mark Darwin in 14, Superchai in 15 in the number 71, the first of the Lamborghini challenge cars. Then we have Adrian Dietz in the AM entry in 16th, Harry O. Then we have Kumar Prabhakan, Chi Min Ma, or Dr. Ma, in number 83, and then the number 18 of Ray Liu rounds out the field of 20 cars. So Cicotto leading the way. Marco Giltrap in the number 84, and I guess if you were Jonathan Cicotto, the one you don't want to be seeing in your mirror, Jonathan Cicotto, is probably Marco Giltrap. Tony Walls is the one next in line, and I guess Tony Walls is also looking in his mirrors going, no, not Dean Canto, he knows his way around this joint.
Well, it is going to be Dean Canto. In fact, we've got safety car off. You can see the lights are off. It's about to pull in down pit lane. And with just on 10 minutes to go, we are going to restart. So keep a close eye on the guy in front. Marco Giltrap, I don't think is going to be able to fire down the inside of Cicotto. But the one we're going to keep a close eye on is Dean Canto. But he's back in position number 6. So he's got a couple of lap cars in between him and the race leader. So that's going to slow him down a little bit. We'll see Cicotto's fired out of the last corner, and he is really motoring. I'm not going to talk about the windows. Last time I did that was horrendous. So if you make any observations on that front, we're underway.
So stop talking about it, Sean. Let's get on with it. Johnny Cicotto jumps away like he did at the start of this race. Have a look at the field. Fan out as they come down into turn 1. It's a restart all over again. Marco Giltrap poised just in behind, but Jonathan Cicotto has got it. Tony Walls is around, surrenders his 3rd spot in the race, goes to the grass, and the 83 has gone around. He was from right down the field, the 83. This is Dr. Ma. Raw fuel out the back of the car there. It'll refire, and that will definitely go out. So we've got one from the front and one from the rear of the field spinning in turn 1 on the safety car restart.
That was Keith Wong, unfortunately. He was looking to try and make up some positions after a fairly steady start from Dr. Ma. But on the screen at the moment is Marco Giltrap in position number 2, doing what he can to keep his championship points alive. And they're very, very well poised at the top of the championship points in the pro class. Of course, coming into this season off the back of the last time they were racing in Lamborghini Super Trofeo Asia. That's going back a number of seasons, and the champion at that point was Chris Vanderdrift, Marco Giltrap's co-driver. So the Giltrap group supported Auckland Lamborghini entry. They will be doing everything they can to keep this championship alive. A little bit further forward, though, is the man we see on screen. screen. That is Jonathan Cecotto, the Venezuelan, son of multiple world motorcycle champion Johnny Cecotto. Of course, he had some time in touring cars and, of course, in Formula One. And perhaps that's where Jonathan wants to go. He's a very, very accomplished GT driver and turned a fantastic job in this weekend so far. Great to see him running at the front of the field.
Car number 6 has dropped down a couple of spots as well, Sean, as I would suggest what happened in turn 1. Tony Walls and Dean Canto. Tony Walls has dropped right back out of the 10. Dean Canto's dropped back to 5th. So you'd have to suggest that the two Australians came together somewhere there, or there was a misunderstanding over an argument on a piece of real estate on track there, and they've both come out losers in that instance. So that's a shame for their push, particularly for Tony and Jason Walls, who are in this for the entire championship, and they're pushing on very well in the objective number 11. And we wish them all the very best for the rest of the journey.
In fact, you can see that the first sector for Dean Canto was 9 seconds slower than the race leader, so he's certainly lost some wholesale time. There he is on screen for Zagami Autosport, doing a very good job, just trying to make some sort of recovery. He's got the flashes on at the moment, so I'm not sure what he's alerting everybody to. Maybe he can't reach the switch.
Be careful, Sean. Be
Sorry,
very careful.
Canto does like revenge.
Having a look now at this bit of the field, this is Dean Canto, Dan Wells up the road, Chang Woo Lee in the 63, Sean. That was the one I said I was watching up into P3 now. So they've come from 7th up into P3. As I said, just before that safety car period, they really switched the pace on in that car, and they've done a tremendous job, now currently sitting in a podium position.
Well, testament to that is their fastest first sector. They've just punched it out just that last lap. He's only
Canto gets unlocks that spot, under brakes.
That's another one further forward. And that was one of the cars that started in front of him at the start of this restart. And unfortunately, that has delayed his progress and potentially put him into a position where he came into contact with Tony Walls. So a little bit of drama further back. Now the 83 is in pit lane, and that is Keith Vong, who we saw having spun. So obviously got the car restarted, back down pit lane, but up front, there is the man leading this race. He's already out by 3.2 seconds, and that, of course, is Jonathan Cecotto.
Terrific livery design on this car. They've used all of the angles that the factory wanted them to use to accentuate the magnificent silhouette of the Huracan Evo 2 Super Trofeo body shape, and that is a really well thought out livery, and it is storming on now down into turn number 6, the big stop. Swing right back around on yourself. An absolute plethora of track space. There's acreage of blacktop down there. Oh, this is not what you want to see. The team with the engine cover off, the Veloce Motorsport outfit. And, well, when you got the Veloce, it's fast. So Fast Motorsport have got some work to do there as well. And we watch the number 83 just be fought over at this point in time. Johnny Cecotto leading the way now. We have got 5.5 minutes left in this race. 21 laps have been completed, and the TRT Racing team, for all intents and purposes, seem to have the game on a string. The 28 damage, that is David Lau in the 28, and that has some bad damage on the front again. We're going to see another front clip come dragged out of the 40-foot containers out the back now. He's clearly signalling, I'm okay, but the car is not going anywhere. So that, I can't quite pick up exactly where that is on track, but it looks to be in a relatively safe spot. So we'll see that at turn 6 when the cars come around again, but I would suggest that with 4.5 minutes left in this race, let's hope that race control allow this one to continue on. There is an investigation on cars 11 and 83, which was on that restart. I would suggest the 83 is in the pit lane, and the number 11 is Tony Walls. So they were two cars that came proper in that restart. And we have got a safety car called as well with 4 minutes and 20 seconds left in this one. You'd have to suggest, looking at the damage on that Huracan Evo 2 out on track, it's going to be a lengthy one to get that one removed into a a safe place.
Well, David Lai had a drama during qualifying. That particular occasion, it was turn 16. That brought out a red flag. Not too much damage to the car, but this time that's quite significant down at turn 6. So we're looking at a little bit of racing further back in the field. And I think that was Vincent Tai going for position and making up some ground. And that was back around positions number 9 and 10 with Wei Liang Ni. So this will be a frustrating stall to position, but what it does is gives us an opportunity to just highlight the 4 categories. There's 4 distinct categories within Lamborghini Super Trofeo. The Pro category, which sort of stands alone as the outright drivers, and that can be drivers that are silver or gold. And in the case of somebody like Jonathan Cecotto, he did race at last round with Li Chung, but Li Chung actually had an issue getting his visa in time to get into Australia, so couldn't make it, which is why Cecotto's driving alone. He wasn't prepared to do that when he first arrived here, but that's the situation. But he's a gold driver, so he can do that. If he was a platinum driver, he could not drive alone.
I could give him a bronze if he wanted to.
I think a few people have put their hands up. The Pro-Am category, of course, is the Pro drivers and the Am category. So we're talking about the leading Pro-Am team being the car that's in position number 4, which is Oscar Lee behind the wheel. He is the Am component of that Pro-Am entry with Dan Wells, of course. Jonathan Cecotto is a pro, as is Marco Giltrap and Chris Vanderdrift. They're a pro. That's 1-2. Changru Lee, you were talking about, the number 63 entry, is holding down position number 3. They did a very solid job, but their position perhaps in Malaysia was highlighted a little bit by their tyre choice. As an Am driver, they were one of a handful of teams that actually changed to slick tyres before the start of the race, so they had performance at the end of the race. Having said that, though, the drivers that do a lot of racing in Korea hadn't ventured outside of Korea until they arrived at Sepang, so they're a bit of an unknown component. They themselves admitted, wow, how did we do so well? Like, we jumped in the car, we went out and did our best. We weren't expecting anything amazing, and it all unfolded. So perhaps not a surprise that they're again holding down position number 3. Then you've got the Lamborghini Cup. Now, I'll read it because it's a little confusing, because a little bit of it is discretionary based on driver performance. You want everybody to compete at their level. You don't want somebody who's an Am racing against pros and then feeling like they're missing out. So Lamborghini Cup is a category where Lamborghini reserves the right to modify the driver's categorisation at any time. So it may be a driver who's come into the sport later in life. They don't have anything to bank on apart from club days, or they may have just bought a car and done a little bit of testing, and they come into the championship. They've been classified as Lamborghini Cup. So at the moment, that is Superchai holding down position number 14. Kumar, who is the LC Cup championship points leader, who's come from racing in Europe with Iron Lynx a couple of weeks ago, he's holding down position number 2. And Harry O, who is driving with his brother, they had a drama during the opening race at Sepang, coming out of turn 3, and that's the same place the K brothers also had a drama, which sidelined them to the backup car for the start of the first race. They are holding down in position number 3, and the number 83 entry, which we saw having dramas, it is in position number 4 in LC Cup. So they're the 4 distinct categories within the championship for Lamborghini Super Trofeo Asia, and we're just getting word, Daz, that this race will be finished behind the safety car. So I would suggest that Jonathan Cecotto is continuing his solid run on Saturday here at the Bend. Pole for race 1, pole for race 2, and now victory. His maiden victory in Lamborghini Super Trofeo Asia.
Terrific result there. He really did want it right from turn 1, Sean. He got away from the line beautifully, although we did get word that the start of the race, the entire start of the race, was going to be under investigation post-race. So they're obviously going to have a look back at some footage of that. But certainly he arrived at turn 1, and that early stanza, that early 6 to 8 laps of the race where he was just chipping away at a half-second lead, gaining a half-second every lap. So that was a really cool start to the race, and I dare say a nice result. And the checkered flag is readied for this field. It's got 4 or 5 corners still to, one corner to get round to get onto the straight, and to front for the checkered flag. So car number 10, this will be a great feeling for Jonathan Cecotto to bring it into the checkered flag. Would have been nice to have a green flag racing conditions, Sean, but so be it, brings it in.
Exactly right, that's 4 points in the books. That will certainly elevate them up the championship. Now, imagining now that will classify him though as a pro, so he'll be going into the title fight with the Vanderdrift and Giltrap entry, and Xu Shangwei and David Chen. So there's a little bit of a change there. So
I think there might be a bit of a change too, Sean. You were looking at your notes there. A couple of cars drew alongside each other. I think they forgot they were under safety car, and you can't overlap on safety cars. So there's going to be some further discussions there. And I think we're talking about the roundabout where Sutalak and Vincent Tai were. So there's 78 and 51. But there might be a nuance under the Super Trofeo standing regs that can be done. I don't think so. But here we go. This is how it looks. Car number 10 takes the win, Jonathan Cicotto. Well done to that team and that driver. Marco Giltrap and Chris Vanderdrift come home in second place. Brian Lee and John Kwong in third place, and that is your podium. Oscar Lee and Dan Wells are deserved fourth place there. Dean Canto and Sam Brabham, I guess, can at this point in time wonder what might have been, but they'll have another restart tomorrow and see where they can go with that. Then we have Loman Hadtai and Prom Sombat in 6 there. Henry Kay and Eric Kay. Sudaluk into position number 8. Johnson Huang and Vincent Tai in 9. And rounding out our 10, Miko Nassi there as well.
Tony Walls and Jackson Walls, unfortunately, after a solid start and a good position for the restart, back in position number 11. Xu Shangwei and Liang Jigtong in position number 12. Then Jason Lowe and Mark Darwin first a lap down. Super Chai, Adrian Dietz, Kumar, Hario and Haziko, Smart Say and David Lau, Dr. Ma and Keith Vong, and Kang Jilong and Liu Ray round out your 20 entry field. So we get to do it again tomorrow, Daz, so it's not all over. And of course, we must explain that these results are provisional. We have to say that every time. I think we get tired of using the word provisional, don't we?
Well, I think there was every second lap there was an under investigation propped up on our screen here. So, and around the world we all saw that. So yes, there will be some investigation. It is only 3:15 here locally in Australia, so there's plenty of time for the stewards to adjudicate. Locally here in South Australia, race number 2 will start at 11:25 tomorrow morning. Check your local guides wherever you are around the world to work out where Adelaide, South Australian time, 11:25 a.m. will be the local time, and we will see it. Here come our winners and our podium getters, and they will take up their places behind the Super Trofeo Squadra Corsa Lamborghini, that magnificent raging bull. If you're a Lamborghini fan, all the podium full of Lamborghinis, and that's the way it is. We will say g'day to our man down in pit lane, Callum Brannigan, with the drivers that have just arrived in pit lane.
Thank you, boys. Jonathan Cicotto has just rolled up into pit lane here. You can see he's extremely happy with that result, and he's congratulating his team on that performance, and he is absolutely elated. So we'll just give him a few moments to celebrate. We'll see if we can grab him in just a few moments. Jonathan, you got a few moments? Yeah. Firstly, congratulations. Well done, mate.
Thank you. It was... Sorry.
I'll give him a few more moments just to take his helmet off. There he is. First, congratulations, Jonathan. Thanks, mate.
Thank you. It's nice. It's my first time here in Australia, and a good welcome, I would say. So I'm happy, and tomorrow there's another long race.
What are your first initial impressions of the Bend Motorsport Park? Obviously success off the bat, which is great. Here comes the Hankook hat, obviously, but a lot of success on debut, but it's quite a challenging track for you to settle into.
Yeah, for sure. There are some very challenging corners that at the beginning took me a couple of laps to get used to it. I started to get the rhythm now, and I'm starting to enjoy a lot. Very fast corners, downhill, turn 9, 10, 11 are one of the most exciting I've ever driven.
Thanks, Jonathan.
Thank you.
Now we'll go back to the commentary box.
Cicotto and all of the local and international photographers now want their time with the race winner, don't they? We want to get them up on the podium and taste the champagne.
There's that coveted Hankook #1 hat. They all love those. That'll go onto the mantelpiece. But a great result for Cicotto, and another one of the young drivers who's part of the Lamborghini Squadra Corsa program. And they've done a great job in actually graduating drivers through to GT and now into WEC. Guys like Miko Bertolotti, who's racing this weekend at Le Mans. Very, very talented driver. It's a great program. And, I mean, remember, this has been running for a number of years. Lamborghini Super Trofeo Asia started in 2012. So it's a program that's been going on for a long time, but very, very popular. And again, I go back to Andre Couto, very, very experienced driver. And he said these things are really the real deal. They're a fantastic car to drive. He said, I've driven a lot of one-make competition stuff. I've driven Super GT in Japan. I've driven GT3s at the top level. But he said these things are just brilliant to drive. The performance of them, but also how forgiving they are for a gentleman driver. So that's important too for a category like this, that they want to go out, they want to go fast. They're very close to the pace of an outright GT3 car. So they give you that whole race experience, but with a level of comfort and safety that allows you to push the car to your comfort zone and still be fairly quick.
Certainly the Super Trofeo is a decent car. You touched on 2012, the Gallardo LP564, a venerable race car indeed. Not the first time we saw one-make Lamborghini racing in Australia. Of course, supporting the Australian Grand Prix right back in the 90s was the Diablo SVR and the Diablo GTR over here supporting the... Well, they were actually touring with Formula One around the world at the time. So it's really cool to see a tradition revived in Australia with the Raging Bull, and a brand that is very, very fond to Australians. They're certainly... It's a aspirational brand. It's an aspirational car, and one of those ones. You know, I'm a boy of the 80s. It was always the Countach up on the wall at home, and I guess as the years go by, it was a Diablo, then an Aventador, and these days the Gallardo, and moving on to the Huracan. So it's just one of those brands that it makes your heart beat, that's for sure.
Well, there's certainly been a few people comment this weekend that haven't heard these things at full song in the past, that 5.2 litre V10 is just beautiful as it's going up and down gears, and just the sound of it at full throttle is amazing.
I remarked to our local commentary team here that are covering the support categories as well that I went to the Australian Grand Prix and heard Formula One, and I went, I can't wait to get to the Bend and hear the V10s of the Lambos, because Formula One for me orally has just lost it. The audio soundtrack to these things just absolutely eclipses them.
So we go to the calendar, which is on screen, of course, for the 2023 Lamborghini Super Trofeo Asia schedule. We started at Sepang in Malaysia back in early May. We're here this weekend at the Bend for the very first time, and we hope that continues. And talking to Davide Gobi, the boss of Top Speed, who organises all these major championships throughout Asia and the region, he's pretty confident that this won't be the first time we'll be back in Australia. So we'll be in Australia, I shouldn't say back in Australia, for Lamborghini Super Trofeo Asia. This is their debut down under, so it'll be good to be back in 2024. 14th to the 16th of July at the mighty Fuji International Speedway. I personally can't wait for that one. That's a fantastic circuit. Off to Everland Speedway in South Korea on the 18th to the 20th of August, and then Shanghai International Circuit, a venue that has spent seen a lot of competition for Lamborghini Super Trofeo Asia over recent seasons, on the 8th to the 10th of September. And then it's Vallelunga in Italy. Now, that's interesting because the way the world final is done, Daz, is you finish your regional championship. Of course, we have Super Trofeo Asia, we have Super Trofeo USA and Super Trofeo Europe. So for 2 days, you finish on the Vallelunga circuit, the final round of your national championship. And then the leading teams go into a world final at the same circuit 2 days later to close out the season. So that is a top prize. And last year, in fact, we saw Oscar Lee and Dan Wells were amongst those teams right at the top of the tree, vying for the outright win in the Super Trofeo World Final. So some of these guys have been very, very impressive. And of course, we've got to remember too, in the Asian region, there hasn't been the level of motorsport we see in Europe, certainly in Europe, in America and also in Australia. So these guys are very new to competition, and a category like this is very much about, we call it gentleman driver, and of course ladies are welcome to compete as well. There isn't any competing at the moment, but for drivers who are business people to come into the sport later in life when they've sorted out family, they've sorted out business, and we have drivers in the field that are well and truly into their 60s, and they're competing at a level that they're comfortable at. That's what a lot of this one-make competition is about. The reason you have pro drivers is because those drivers who are coming in as amateurs can bring the professional in to help guide them and give them data and experience and get them up to speed to make their experience in racing a lot better. So that's the level of competition this is. So very different to outright GT3, where you've got professionals that just missed out on a drive in Formula One or World Touring Cars or V8 Supercars, racing for the final 10th of a second and hanging it out every single lap and riding off cars. These guys are very measured. They're trying hard, but they're very measured in how they're racing. So you have a fair distinction between the drivers at the front of the field and the rear of the field. But also, what's impressive about this too is the pros are very understanding of that. So they're not pushing their nose up where they don't need to. You saw Jackson Walls battling with Dan Wells. He knew he could do that. He wouldn't have done that with an amateur driver because it doesn't pay off for either of them. So it's a fantastic championship, and to go into this season after a sabbatical of 4 years, I think it was, rather than 3 years, it's nice to be racing again with the Lamborghini Super Trofeo, and the Huracan Evo 2 is certainly a very, very impressive beast.
And that just doesn't happen overnight either. When you've had such a break in it, and it happened all around the world in every racing series. Everyone has to be reassembled again. Sean, yourself, you had to be brought back into the fray, and then there's a new car and all of those bits and pieces. Interestingly enough, Sean, I just want to know who I give my address to, because I reckon I tick about 70% of those profiles of those drivers that to qualify for a Super Trofeo Huracan Evo 2.
I think it's financial. I think that's the one box that you and I both aren't able to tick.
That's the 30% that ends up being 99% of the job, doesn't it? But is certainly not too far away from having ourselves a podium. We will go straight to that, and once we get the signal that we're going live there. There's a great shot of the back of the grandstand that sits on driver's right here at the Bend with Adelaide on it, and I remember when Adelaide, all I could think of when I said that was Adelaide Alive, and it was the Australian Grand Prix, and we were making our way into Adelaide to view that. These days, of course, the Australian Grand Prix held at Elwood Park in Melbourne, but the very best 10 Australian Grand Prix were held not too far from here, about an hour from here, in the great city of Adelaide. There's the magnificent facility that is the Bend Motorsport Park Welcome Centre, the Ridges Hotel off to the right of the screen there, the viewing areas on top, and you can see the podium just tucked away just above actually that Adelaide sign on the back of those grandstands there. A really beautiful part of South Australia, the Murray River, not too far away from here. So the name Tailem Bend is the big bend in the Murray River that they take there, and it is a beautiful part of the world. In fact, South Australia is a beautiful part of the world if you like adventures, if you like relaxation, if you like the outback. It is certainly the gateway to the Australian outback, heading up through Cooper Pedy and into central Australia, and it is a beautiful part of the world. We're standing by now for the podium to go live for round 2, race number 1 of the Lamborghini Super Trofeo Asia Series. A poignant time to send a message out to all of our officials that are out beside the track. They've stood through some pretty trying conditions here over the last day and a half or so of both practice qualifying. Not racing being done under all dry conditions, although we did have some reports of some drizzle around the track. There's the message on screen. A big thanks to all the officials and volunteers. Visit motorsport.org.au/officials if you are here locally in Australia, but certainly the FIA, jump on their website and they will take you to your local precinct or your local ASN that will be organising officials for motorsport in your part of the world. So check that out, or you can actually go to motorsport.org.au/officials and link back to the FIA, and you can certainly be a part of it. The volunteer motorsport officials do get the extreme trackside experience. There is a lot of training that is dished out or handed out to those people to make sure that they don't just get thrown into a dangerous situation. And we had just been told podium not too far away. A spectacular sight with 20 Lamborghini Evos lined up in pit lane. We're about to go down to the podium for the trophy presentation of race number 1. Quick reminder, 11:25 local time here in South Australia will be 11:25. We go to the podium.
Ladies and gentlemen, now is the podium ceremony for race 1 of 2023 Lamborghini Super Trofeo Asia Round 2 at the Bend. Now let's invite the overall top 3 winners onto the podium. Your winner of the race, car number 10 from TRT Racing, Jonathan Cecotto. Second place, car number 84 from Absolute Racing, Marco Giltrip, Chris Wonderdrift. Third place, car number 63 from SQDA Great Motorsport, Burnley and John Kwan. And now it's my honor to invite Mr. Sam Shaheen, the owner and the managing director of the Bend Motorsport Park, to present the trophy to the winners. Now it goes to John Kwan. Burnley and John Kwan.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Well done. Thank you.
Sir, now let's have group. And now we'll welcome all the drivers and Mr. Sam to have group photo.
Group photo. All right.
Guys, let everyone stay. Mr. Sam, and now it is your champagne time. Okay. And now we are heading the podium ceremony for Pro M class. Your winner of Pro M class, car number 21 from D1 Racing Team, Oscar Lee, Dan Wells. Second place, car number 17 from Racecraft, Ni Wei Liang and Mikko. Yeah. Third place, car number 11 from Objective Racing, Tony Walls and Jackson Walls. And now it's my honor to invite Mr. Francesco Scardoni, Region Director, Automobile Lamborghini Asia Pacific, to present the trophies. And now it's photo time. Everybody please step forward to the fence. Thank you, Mr. Francesco Scardoni, and now it is champagne time. Ladies and gentlemen, and now it's the podium presentation for Race 1 of 2023 Lamborghini Super Trofeo Asia Round 2 at the Bend AM class. Your winner of AM class, car number 63 from SQDA Great Motorsport, Brian Lee and John Kong. Second place, car number 19 from Absolute Racing, Mai and Yu. Third place, car number 91 from Triple Ace Racing, Henry and Eric. And now it's my honor to invite Miss Nikki Dimitrio, brand manager Oceania Roger Dubus, to present the trophy to the winners. And now, everybody, please step forward. We have to the fence, please.
Hold it like this.
And now it is your champagne time. And now we are having the podium ceremony for Lamborghini Cup. The winner of Lamborghini Cup, car number 71 from Sigma Gas, course Superjai. Second place, car number 37 from Iron Lakes, Kumar Prabhakaran. Third place, car number 5 from HDO Fortis Racing Team, Harry O and Hadrick O. And now it's my honor to invite Mr. John Cho, Managing Director of Hancock Australia, to present the trophy to the winners. Now everybody step forward. We have the group photo for Lamborghini Cup. Everybody here. Thank you, Mr. Jung. And now for the Lamborghini Cup, it is your jumping time. Hold on. Right now, let's invite everybody come back to the podium. Let's have a group photo of all the drivers, friends, presenters, please. Everybody, let's have group photo. Everybody, please come back to the podium.
Trofeo, Lamborghini Super Trofeo Asia podium there. What a fantastic day of racing. Callum Brannigan has run up pit lane and back into the commentary box. We've got a full day of racing again tomorrow, Callum, and kicks off with a first race, the Hyundai XL race number 2, 7 laps. BMW E30 and the SA Tin Tops put on a ripping race today. They'll have 7 laps. Australian Prototype race 2 for 10 laps. The Australian Formula Open race 2 for 10 laps as well. The headline act, 11:25. Lamborghini Super Trofeo Asia race number 2, 11:25. Note that one down. That's Adelaide time in South Australia. Hyundai XLs will have their 1 o'clock race for race 3. BMW E30s and SA Tin Tops at 1:25. At 1:50, the Australian Prototypes race number 3, a timed race of 30 minutes. The Australian Formula Open race number 3, 15 laps. Final race of the day will be the Hyundai XL race number 4 for 10 laps. All races live and free around the world via all of your social medias. Blendline TV, of course, Lamborghini Squadra Corsa, the Lamborghini Facebook page. Plenty of action tomorrow for the 2023 South Australian Motorsport Series. Callum, we have had a ripping day here at the Bend and looking forward to it tomorrow.
Yeah, Darren, it's been an outstanding day, and what an outstanding 50-minute race that was for race 1 of Lamborghini Super Trofeo Asia, making its debut in Australia in a very big way. And the best part is we're back here tomorrow to do it all again with 50 minutes. Another race coming your way. Slightly different though. We have the alternate drivers if there are a two-driver combination starting the race. But I guess it's about time to wrap things up down here at the Bend Motorsport Complex, Darren.
Thank you very much for joining us here. If you joined us at the track or indeed online around the world, we'll catch you tomorrow. See you then.
Okay, Shane, you talking to us? No, sorry, we're testing this issue with talkback going through to the PA, so we're trying to work out what the cause is, so I'm going to be talking on talkback for a bit. Is that why you said shut up when I was... Yes. Yeah, that's why. So